Hey, hi. How are you?
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, welcome to our show. We are Off the Record. This is our very cool, funky show where we take an album or an artist that either somebody has given us or we decide amongst ourselves, and we explore the artist. We listen to the album a lot of
A
times
lot.
over again, ad nauseum, to the ends of the earth, on the bus with a guy called
Yeah.
Gus, in the house, in our anywhere we want, in the bathtub. I don't know if you can. And then we talk about it, and we talk about all the different things, and we all come to this album with a different perspective because we all have completely different tastes in music, which is kind of cool because
Very
it
cool.
makes us all very different. So I'll just tell you a little bit about me and what I like. And really, I'd say that it changes and it's varied. But right now, I love Americana and funk and jazz. And I really always like classical, and a little bit of folk country. I'm kind of getting into country. What about you guys?
Cool. So I really like, I would say my favorite is psychedelic dark pop music, indie alternative 80s. I like a lot of pop, dance, rap if it's really good. And I also like a lot of big band crooner music as well.
I really like, disco. I grew up in that era.
Crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we used to go to the clubs, fake ID, 16, drinking Black Russians, trying to meet women, right? So that was my gig back then. I like new wave, still do. I like early rap. I really love new romantic. New romantic genre like ABC, Duran Duran. I was a Duranie. I went to see them in concert. Like, used to love them. And rootsy rock. Your Chuck Berry. That early rootsy style rock and roll. Anyway, thanks.
Well, thanks, Enzo Smith. That's Enzo Smith, everybody. Bill Houston up in the corner. And I'm Nicola St. John. And hey, so I would also tell you at this moment, don't forget to like us or subscribe to us. There's buttons. Find the buttons, do it. And also in the comments, why don't you tell us what album or artist you want us to do next? Because we're looking for some recommendations.
All right, everybody. So just so you know, this is our first show, and lucky enough to be asked to suggest the first album, and it's one of my favorite albums of all time, David Bowie's Station to Station. Before I get into it, though, I'd like to know what you two feel about David Bowie, how he got into your life, talk about his life, songs and nostalgia, influences, things like that. So let's start off with Bill. Go ahead.
Okay, so I've always really admired David Bowie. I've always liked a lot of his songs. He's never been a major player in my life though. Like, I've never been into full albums. I've been into bits of him and loved certain songs. The only songs I've really loved though, I gotta say, I love Jean Genie. And I heard that when I was a little kid. I think my sister used to play it, and I just thought it just felt like a crazy song about a crazy person in New York City. And I always pictured sort of just doing nutty things. But I love the way he sets up. It's very rhymey in that song, and then it's absolutely the opposite of rhymey. So I kind of like when songs do that. It's a really funky tune. But then, 80s David Bowie, Blue Jeans, Modern Love, that kind of stuff. I was never a huge pop fan of David Bowie, but those songs were meaningful for sure.
All right. Well, I'll tell you that for sure David Bowie has always been around my life, but he's never been one of my favorites. So I think he's so outside the norm. That's the coolest thing for me about him. I'm sure that the first interest I ever had in Bowie was because he was in Labyrinth. It's just so weird and ridiculous. Like, I loved him in that weird movie. And like, it's funny because my next door neighbor, I've lived beside the same person for like 30 years, basically. And she's such a big Bowie fan, and she had like all this Bowie art. And then I have a really good friend who lives in France, and she's the same way. And people who love Bowie, like, love Bowie.
Love,
Never meet,
love him.
but it's interesting because a lot of people I really respect it's true for. And so listening to this album and getting into it with for the show was really interesting for me.
Okay, so the album we're looking at this week, as Enzo said, is David Bowie's Station to Station. I'm going to talk a little bit about the production. So it was released in 1976, and it was David Bowie's 10th studio album. It was a vehicle for his character, the Thin White Duke, after he finished the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth. That's where the still from the album cover comes from. It was sort of categorized as art, funk, rock. The influence of Kraftwerk, we were saying, but the big influence of cocaine, it seemed, while David Bowie was making the album, claiming he didn't even remember making half of the album because he was so high all the time. The lyrics reflected Nietzsche, occultism, mythology, and religion. And it was co-produced by Harry Maslin, who his quote about David Bowie was him saying that David was a great producer. He wasn't a great engineer, but he knew how to put a melody and a song and a rhythm together and get what he wanted from the musicians he worked with.
And I read somewhere, and this is kind of weird, that when he was doing this album that he was like living on a diet of red peppers and milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. There's a video of him. He's in the backseat of a cab and they're interviewing him and he said that. I'm just all I do is drink milk and eat peppers.
He's
Weird.
probably just screwing with people, right?
Yeah.
He did that a lot.
The mystique, right?
Yeah. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the musicians on this album in particular. And it's interesting because for a lot of people, musicians change from album to album, but Bowie was really like tight with his people, like right up until the very end. He's really like all about the musicians. So he did a lot of stuff and some cool different things on this album as well. But mostly he was like lead vocals, guitar, although he does some cool other things as well, some sax in one of the songs we really like. And kind of interesting for me is Dennis Davis on the drums because he played for years with my partner Tony with Roy Ayers, which is kind of cool. And he also played with George Benson and Stevie Wonder. So Dennis Davis was like a freaking heavyweight, in the funk world.
Yeah.
Also his guitar, Earl Slick, like from beginning to end, he was just always with Earl and Carlos Alomar. And they're just, I'd say maybe Carlos Alomar is a little more funky, like a funkier guitar player, and Roy Bittan on piano. And we already talked a little bit about Harry Maslin, who also played the melodica and the synth and the vibraphone, which is also what Roy did. So
I used to play the melodica in grade school.
You did
Really?
not.
I don't even know what that is. What is
Yeah,
a
I
melodica?
know. I know. So it's kind of weird. Like it's a kind of a weird thing that you use your mouth with, right? It's
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
a cool instrument. So yeah.
Cool. So, the album is, I didn't realize this, and when I listened to it back in the 70s, I just liked it. I wasn't thinking about how influential it was, but apparently it was very influential, and he was influenced by others, as we mentioned, for example, Kraftwerk. But it's on everyone's essential list. Like it's in the top 500 for Rolling Stone. No matter what you think of Rolling Stone now, modern Rolling Stone is, but back in the day, it meant something. So it was like 300 and something out of 500. And it was like in the top 100, I think, of Mojo magazine. And I read that it was number 21, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it did really well. Like in Canada, it was like number two, that album. It got up there and it went gold in Canada, the US, and the UK. So it was very popular. To me, it's an unassuming album. Like it's not like famous like Ziggy Stardust or
Right.
Aladdin Sane or
Yeah.
Let's Dance, all that. Like to me, it's just a great album. But reading and studying it, I'm like, wow, like a lot of people love this album.
Okay, so let's get into David Bowie's Station to Station. We're going to talk about the first song, Station to Station.
Right.
And it's the intro, and we're going to go to Enzo. What do you think, Enzo?
Well, thank you very much, Bill. The interesting thing about Station to Station, it was mentioned earlier, it's basically the invention of the Thin White Duke, right? So, David Bowie, glam rock, characters coming out his ears. you know, like I say, Ziggy Stardust, Aladdin Sane, all that. But this is the Thin White Duke, which kind of stuck with him for a while. You know, the sound effect with the train at the beginning, and then I really like the song because it's like a 10-minute song, but it's very simple. It's just a simple song. Like the piano comes in after the train um, sound effect goes away, and it's like I could play that. I can't play an instrument for being, but I could go down, down, down like that. Like I love that part. Just very simplistic, but very, very textured. Anyway, so
Yeah, I normally cannot stand 10-minute songs. Even by artists I love, I can't stand them.
yeah.
This song is awesome. I
Yeah.
love that it starts very Kraftwerk, Trans-Europe Express, and then it
Mm,
kind of comes back halfway through. You hear the train coming into the station as he's singing station to station. The
yeah.
buildup is incredible to me in that song. That's the headphone song to me.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would say is, kind of gets on my nerves a bit is the repeating of the lines. There's a lot of that in this album, the mantras. It just repeats, repeats, repeats.
Right.
And to me, when it gets to a certain point, I'm like, are you just trying to fill up space? But it's an awesome song. It's an
Yeah.
awesome intro to that album.
Yeah.
And I think I've heard it probably 40 times now. Never heard it before and really liked it.
Wow. Cool. Very cool.
Okay, I would say that for me, yeah, I don't mind a 10-minute song if you interest me, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I heard
Does
it
change.
described like this. It's like an ominous 100-foot high brick wall that suddenly becomes a rapturous disco halfway through.
Yeah.
And it is kind of like that. Like it's almost like two songs at once, right? So you're like, here it is first, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And it feels a bit like that whole German experimentation you were talking about. It
Mhm.
kind of feels like that to me, that kind of Kraftwerk, German experimentation, hard right at you in your face. And then suddenly we're like at the disco. Like I
Yeah.
can actually totally see how you love it.
Yeah.
Because it's all the things you said you like.
Yeah. 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 And just listening to it again, I'm like, you know what? This is just a dance album. It's at the core of it, it's a dance album.
Mm,
There's two songs where you can slow dance at the high school dance.
yeah,
And then there's the other songs. They're
yeah,
just like station parts of it are it's boogie woogie. And you like
yeah.
and you toe tap it like it's a dance album at the core
Okay.
for me. Anyway.
Okay, so let's go to song number 2, which is the lead single off the album, Golden Years. And we'll start with Enzo.
Well, you know, like I said, I love the album in general because it's almost like an EP, but it's just, you know, 6 songs are perfect. A lot of bands should just stick to 5 or 6 songs, and this song is really good because it, like I said, it's lyrically it's great. The music is fantastic, and Golden Years was like a hit off the album for a reason because it was accessible, poppy, catchy, good vocals, and the right length.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, to me, that's just an awesome song, like a 9 out of 10 song. Um, Great vocals, kind of creepy and poppy and haunting at the same time, my kind of thing. The harmonizing is awesome. The way he does the vocal tricks on it, amazing. That became a hit because it's kind of poppy, but it's really not.
It's not, yeah, yeah.
Again, the only thing I would say, which is always my thing, is edit, edit, edit. Just kind of goes on too long at the end, just a little bit too long for me to
Mm,
take away the kind of pop single of it. It just got a little too long, but it's a great song. It's one of my favorite David Bowie songs for sure.
yeah.
Wow.
I would say I love this song. I'm not gonna say what's my favorite yet, but I love this song. And this one has the melodica on it, which is
Oh,
like, it really is like, it's interesting. It's it's like a piano, but you blow into it. It's
Oh,
kind of
cool.
a cool instrument.
oh, okay.
It's really a different kind of instrument, and so the song is really different. But I agree. I think it's super catchy.
Huh.
That should have been the hit.
Everything about that song is cool. And
Yeah.
it's not even very dated at this point either to me. Okay, so let's go to the third song on this David Bowie Station to Station album. It's Word on a Wing. Let's go to Enzo.
It's very poetic, I find. It has this, and there's another song that has, for me, religious overtones. I don't know whether I don't really know if he was religious or not, but to the point you made earlier that the themes like occultism and Aleister Crowley reference,
Yeah.
things like that. And this is one of those songs that he mentions the word Lord several times, and prayer and praying. And do I fit into your scheme of things? So it sounds like a love song, but it sounds like he's speaking to God. Yeah.
To me, that song, the music kind of plods a bit in that song. It almost sounds like a jam session where he's throwing different things, different melodies from different songs, different things he's written on top of this plotting kind of thing that goes on and on and on. I'm not saying it in a bad way,
Oh,
just comparatively to the rest of the album.
yeah.
The music kind of plods to me.
Mhm.
Um, there are parts of the songs I really like the chorus part where he's got all the vocals coming in and he's singing about Lord. It's really cool the way he puts it together, but a lot of it just seems like I can throw this in, throw this in. It feels like one of those songs to me.
So anyway, I found this song super elegant. I would
Oh,
say
that's a good word.
very elegant. And I liked it, almost like he was really standing up straight or something. And this in this song, he actually plays Chamberlain strings.
Oh,
So it's kind of, you know, it's
huh.
like kind of angelic or something, or I don't know. There was
Yeah.
something really beautiful. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah. Very ethereal. Yeah.
Very ethereal.
Yeah.
I played Chamberlain strings in public school.
But you don't know what they are.
Oh yeah. Well, I
We
was a
had to blow
chambermaid
it.
in
We had to
university.
blow into the violin.
Into the strings.
Okay, so let's get on to song number four here.
All right.
And this is the unusual, the weirdo song on the album, I would
Yes.
say. TVC 15.
Yeah.
TVC 15.
Mm.
So let's go to Enzo. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I love this song because it is weird. His vocals are really strange, but really cool. And
Yeah.
again, it's a dance song. Like it's a toe tapper, and it's a straight up, for me, just a straight up rock song that you can
Yeah.
dance to. And it's over 5 minutes, so it's not super long, but it's long enough. It's that early to mid 70s when all these bands took risks, and instead of doing 3 minute songs,
Yeah.
everyone like the Elton Johns of the world and them prog rock, you get into the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minute songs, right? If a song isn't musically or sonically interesting, the lyrics, it could be poetry from heaven. I don't, it's gotta have hooks, and gotta be beautifully arranged. Just the
Mhm.
music's gotta be cool. And this is one of those songs, but it's really straight up, just like I said, it's one of those straight up dance songs off this album. Yeah.
So this was my first original listen to this song, this album. I thought, what a stupid song this is. Lyrically, I was like, it's aliens taking his girlfriend into a television and
Yeah.
he's just drugged up. And then the more I would listen to it, because it had the album playing all the time, and I'm like, I love this song. And normally, I'm talking about the repeating lyrics, and this is the king of repeating lyrics, this song, but it works for me. It gets
Yeah.
very manic and crazy and otherworldly and
Yeah.
hypnotic. So I really like it. It kind of flipped on me a bit, this song. I don't
Cool.
know if it's my favorite, but I really liked it in the end.
It's funny you said otherworldly, so I put almost UFO-ish.
Hmm.
So I guess it's the same vibe. In this song, Bowie's on sax, and I love horns. Like, so of course I love the horns on this for sure. I just think that's the coolest. I love that sound.
Yeah.
And I thought this was super piano-y too. Like, so this was really like the guy Ray Bitton, who is the piano guy. He was like, I thought this was all piano and a little bit of horns, and I kind of like that. It's different than it's the guitar and drums and bass that you usually hear like as a standard.
Hmm.
So it felt a bit like, I would say you're right, otherworldly, UFO. Uh that sort of thing, whatever the whole album is, it really is in this song, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And it grows on you, like it's under your skin, that song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Right?
catchy. And it's just catchy, I
Yeah.
find.
I think too, there's this thing about this album that maybe at the time in 76 when it was done, it was way more out there than it
Yeah.
is now. So
Oh,
I
Yeah.
think that was what it was meant to be. And like now listening to it now, you're like, well, I think there's maybe a little more like, well, there's a lot of other things now, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get on to track number 5, Stay.
Mhm.
Enzo, what are your thoughts on this song?
Uh, I think there's a bit of repetition, like you say, Bill. This is one of those I think that repeats itself. To me, it's probably like a pretty straight up, just ballady kind of song. Um, for me, it's kind of a middling song. There's standouts off the album. There's only 6 songs, so the
Yeah.
standouts are real big standouts. And Stay, it's okay. It's okay.
I gotta say, "Stay" was my David Bowie awakening song right now
Oh,
because I'd never heard it, and I love it. I love that song. Like when they're talking about the art funk rock, I'm thinking this is the art funk rock song,
Mm.
with the crazy guitar and the disco-y beat with I think it's like what do you call it, conga drums, maybe starting
yeah.
at the beginning, a
When
little
I
bongo
heard those,
thing.
I'm like, because you love Congo.
I do. I like bongos and congas for
Yeah, the
sure.
congas.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
B-52s I do.
yeah,
One of the things I would say lyrically in this song, I love the chorus. I love how he's like this with the chorus, like the melody's like just riding a wave and there's no real scheme to it. And then it grows on you. It grew on me so much, that chorus. I love it. And I love that song. It's very funky and just, it's got a real coolness to it that kind of grows as it goes into this rambling guitar solo at the end, but it works with the funky beat. And I
yeah.
don't know why, because again, normally that would not be something I would like. But I put that's probably one of my top 5 David Bowies of all time.
Oh, right on.
But it
Okay.
might not be my favorite. Anyway,
I would say for me, I loved Stay, and I'd never heard it before. So thanks, Enzo, for bringing it up for us. I loved it, and
Welcome.
Bowie's on keyboards in this song, which I think
Mm,
is kind of cool too. He plays everything, and for sure, for me, I would say it was intense, super intense. I love the intensity, and super funk. And funk is one of my like top 5 things that I like in a song. So this
yeah,
was awesome. I loved it.
cool.
do you see that, Enzo? You're like, and we're like, this is the best.
Yeah, that's funny. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that was a great moment for me hearing that song for sure. Let's go on to the last one, which is Wild is the Wind. Okay, Enzo, what do you think?
So this is an interesting song. To me, it comes off like a Torch song. And funny enough, it's one that David Bowie didn't even write.
Yeah,
Right. So, and I don't know which one of you likes Nina Simone,
I
I
or
like
like
Nina
I don't.
Simone.
You
we
both
both
like,
like Nina Simone.
because
I like
she
Nina
sang
Simone.
it in the
Yeah.
60s,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's
Johnny
like,
Mathis originally though, right?
yeah, that's right, that's right. And I listened to Nina Simone's version, and it's like a real slow,
Yeah.
like it's a
Oh,
Yeah,
dirge almost, right? But
yeah,
it's a really beautiful song. It's too bad he didn't write it, but he
yeah.
does a great version. It's just, yeah, just beautiful.
That's why I thought it was such an odd inclusion on that album. When I first heard it, I was like, this sounds so weird. And then I went and read that it wasn't his. I didn't know the song either.
Yeah.
Apparently, the story was Frank Sinatra came by the studio, heard it, and said, "You should put that on your album." He's like, "Okay," because he wasn't. It was. It just to me, it seemed like it was a song that David Bowie liked and wanted to
Yeah.
record. I don't think it belonged on that album. I don't know why it was there. He did an album called Pinups, which was covers. So I didn't really understand why he did that on this album in particular, because this seemed more thematic to me. David Bowie just seems like sort of a love ballad copy of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I loved Wild is the Wind. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I felt a bit the same. Like maybe I didn't really understand how that was the ending, but it
Yeah.
also didn't even really sound like he was singing. It was almost like he was reciting it like a poem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost like
Yeah.
But
just
great last
talking
note.
through
The
it.
last note of that is awesome that he does.
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is, it's twice as long as the Nina Simone version.
Okay, so now that we've gone through this album, we want to find out because Enzo, this is his one of his favorite albums forever. Nikki and I are very new to it, so this is going to be interesting to find out what are your two favorite songs off this album, starting with Enzo.
All right. Thank you, Bill. So my two favorite songs are Station to Station and TVC 15. Uh, you know, yeah, because like I said, it's got that dance feel. I was 76. I mean, like I said, we were going to discos in 76. It was the height of disco. And this, like I said, these are straight up rock songs that you could dance to. And I kind of like if I like a song, it could be a half hour long. So
Yeah.
these are 6 minute, 5 minute songs. Those are my two favorites.
So my two favorites, Golden Years, love that song. Always love that song. Everything about it. And the new discovery for me was Stay. I love that song by David Bowie, which I guess you would have guessed. I just love the melodies and the beat and even the crazy guitar that's annoying. But it's those two songs are awesome.
Okay, I hate that I have to do this, but my favorite two songs on the album are Golden Years and Stay. So,
Those are
um,
mine.
I
Oh,
know, but they're also mine, and you went first. So what am I gonna do?
I know. Sorry.
I love Golden Years because it's fun and I love it and I love singing it and it was funky and gets me going. And Stay is like a funkorama. So for me, those are just like love them, catchy, in, got them. So.
Okay, so what's everyone's the song they like the least? Enzo, what's yours?
It's tough. Probably Word on a Wing. I think Word on a Wing is it's just it's listening to the two of you talk about it and coming at it new, it's kind of giving me different perspectives. So when I go back and listen to these songs again, I'm gonna think about what the two of you have said and like, yeah, I'm sure there's tons of stuff that I missed. And not being a musician, I'm sure there's nuances that I don't catch. And now I'll be able to listen and think about the comments that you've made. But yeah, probably Word on a Wing.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to second that. Word on a Wing. I've tried thematically, the music, lyrically, it's just not my thing. It's my least favorite for sure on that album.
Okay, I would say that my least favorite is not that. It's TVC 15. I think it was too intense for me. I just thought it was so, I don't know, I felt like being slapped in the face for me. I don't like it.
Okay. All right.
It is a bit of a slap in the face, but
It felt like that.
I
It
like
felt
it.
like
Yeah.
someone was, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird song, but yeah, I just think it's
Yeah, and you
I
know
think
what?
it's
He's
goofy.
weird, right? He's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
And I can
He's
take a
weird.
lot of weird, but I can't take all the weird.
He can be
I know I like a little more weird than most, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but that
He
worked for
can
me.
be
That song.
avant-garde. Yeah.
That song became like under my skin. That song. It was
Oh,
crazy.
okay.
But it's really interesting to me because the whole idea of the show is if someone says, "Hey, you should listen to the song," and people kind of listen, they go, "No, I don't really like it."
Yeah,
We're intensely listening to these things,
yeah,
very much so, and it's going to grow on you or it's not. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting because otherwise you don't really give things a chance,
yeah.
right?
Well, that's interesting too that you brought that up, and maybe I can say this here. The more often I listened to this album, the less I liked it.
Okay,
Interesting.
so that leads me to
Yeah.
this question. You can start this one, Nikki. So how do you feel now about David Bowie and about that album? Go ahead.
Well, it makes me want to listen to more albums of his and go into him more. And I thought when I first heard it, I was like, wow, this is so different and so like nothing I'd ever heard before. And like just his still signature thing. And of course, I know Golden Years. And then I loved Stay, but then like and then I listened to it again, and then I was like, oh, it's really too much for me. I felt like punched in the head a couple of times. And then I listened again, and then I was like, oh, I don't like that beginning. I don't like the station to station. It's so too much. And then I kind of like the disco, but then there wasn't enough for me. And then,
Right.
like, I don't know, there was lots of pieces I didn't like. And at the end, by the third or fourth time, I was just like, oh, I just actually don't love this album. So it's so interesting. And then I thought maybe it was this album that at the time was really like ahead of itself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then now
It doesn't
it's
hold
not.
up, maybe. It just
Yeah,
doesn't
maybe it
hold
doesn't
up.
hold up. Maybe it doesn't hold up. For me.
Yeah, yeah.
I, I when I first started hearing this album, I got really into it right away. I have come away from it liking a few more songs and appreciating David Bowie's albums more
Yeah.
because, as I said, I knew a lot of songs, but I didn't know where they were, where to place them, what albums they were from. So yeah, I always have a great respect for David Bowie, although I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah.
But I know how much he's influenced a lot of the people I love. And so it was really interesting to hear
Yeah.
a full album like that, especially the songs being so long, which is not my thing. I think I'll keep a few, but I won't. I don't think I'll listen to the full thing again, but I'll keep a few of them for sure. Add-ons.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Okay, guys. So David Bowie's Station to Station. Let's give it a rating. Let's start with Nikki out of 10.
Well, even though I had lots of yeses and nos and ups and downs on this album, I think I would give it an 8. Because I think it's like really musically important and interesting. And even though I'm not sure it really stands up forever, I think it was probably the beginning of something super cool, and he was cool. And
Yeah.
so 8 red peppers for me.
8 red peppers. I'm going to give it 7 glasses of milk.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's 2 songs in there I really can't stand, and one is I get them so mixed up. Wind in the Wings and Wind on My Head.
Wow. Yeah. A
What
word on a
Wild is
wing
the
and wild
Wind?
is the wind.
Where is the wind?
Where's the
Who has
wind?
seen the wind?
Who put the whippoorwill in the wind? Whop. But those songs kind of wreck it for me because I don't like them. Really, I got to admit it. I know them quite well now. Don't
Yeah.
like them at all, but I love the other ones.
Yeah.
So I got to give it a 7.
All right. I give it 9.5 lines of Coke.
Red pepper, milk, cocaine. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's do it. Let's make an album. David, you're a little too high. Anyway, yeah, I guess I could say 10, but nothing's perfect.
So don't forget, keep this in your mind to like or subscribe to this beautiful podcast. And while you're at it, just type with your little fingers into the comments any album or artist you would like us to cover, because then we'll do it. We will get to it. Even though I want to do all of my favorite albums, we'll do yours.
I want to do all my favorite albums.
I know. We all want to do our favorite albums.
Okay, guys, so we'll see you next time on Off the Record. Is that the Unabomber?
Yes.